Okay, hi guys, I'm going to go through this problem that we should have gotten to in class if you are in period 2. If you're in periods 3 or 5, we did this one in class. If you just want to think through the logic again of how to solve this problem, you're more than welcome to follow along a second time. So the problem that we're looking at is on page 64 of your textbook. It's number 41. A problem like this will be on your quiz on Monday. So the problem states a car that sold for $8,000 depreciates in value 25% each year. What is it worth after 5 years? Take a moment and think, what is one thing, or what do I know from this problem? What am I being asked to do? What do I know? What do I not know? Okay, so you may have said, I am trying to find what the car is worth after 5 years. So the car is worth after 5 years. That's going to be the question that I'm answering. For what I know, you may have said, well, I know that the car is worth $8,000. And I know that it is depreciating, so if you don't know what depreciates, think about decrease. D means go down. So it's going down in value 25% each year. Okay? And those are kind of the 3 pieces that I need to know and recognize to solve this problem. Take a moment and I want you to think, what is one thing I can try? What can I try to solve this problem? Okay, maybe you said I could multiply 8,000 by 25%. And then in your mind you thought, well, if I'm multiplying by a percent, this should actually be a decimal. When I multiply these 2 values together, I end up at $2,000. But when I think about what 2,000 represents, well, 2,000 is 25% of $8,000. I didn't really factor in this 5 years. So I want you to think of something else that I could try. I'm going to give you a hint. In the end, I should have a sequence. Maybe you recognize that this would be geometric since I multiply my percents. So I'll have a u sub 1 times an r to the n minus 1. Think about what you know. What can I substitute in? You may recognize that your initial value, $8,000, is your u sub 1, so I can substitute that in. U sub n equals 8,000 times r to the n minus 1. Okay, think about something else that you could try. Maybe you said that I could try plugging in 0.25 for r. So that I would get the equation u sub n equals 8,000 times 0.25 to the n minus 1. So now I've got that equation. If I'm finding the car's worth after 5 years, think about what I could do to find that worth. You said I could plug in 5. When I do that, I'll end up with u sub 5 is equal to 8,000 times 0.25 to the 5 minus 1. But when I plug that into my calculator, I get u sub 5 is equal to $31.25, which makes no sense whatsoever. If I subtracted this from 8,000, I would still end up with a really large number. But that also wouldn't really make sense because it's depreciating 25%, so that's a pretty big chunk in 5 years. But it's also not going to be worth $31. That wouldn't make much sense. So I've got to try something else. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. U sub n equals, I know that my first term is 8,000. That's something that I know for sure. What I'm unsure of is my ratio. So I know it has to do with 0.25, but it's not going to be 0.25. So I want you to think about one thing that I could try. Maybe you said, or maybe you thought I could subtract 0.25 from 1. So 1 minus 0.25, I'm going to get U sub n equals 8,000 times 0.75 to the n minus 1. Okay, here's why this makes sense. When I'm multiplying by, or if I'm taking 25% of a number, and then it's depreciating, if I wanted to find out how much my car was worth in that second year, I would take 8,000, and I would subtract 25% of 8,000. And that would give me my car's cost, or car's worth, after 1 year. So really I'm taking 100% of my car's value and I'm subtracting 25%. So this is really 100% minus 25%, which will give me 75%. So that will account for the fact that I'm subtracting that value, I'm subtracting 25% from the initial value. So when I take U sub 5 of this, 8,000 times 0.75 to the 5 minus 1, here to the 4th power, 8,000 times 0.75 to the 4th. I'll get a number that makes a lot more sense. After 5 years, if my car was initially $8,000, its worth after 5 years is $2,531.25. There will be a problem like this on your quiz. Know that, let's say my car value was increasing. By 25% each year. In that case, I'm taking 100% of my price and I'm adding 25% to it. So I would take 1 and I would add 0.25, and this is my ratio. And so that's how I find my ratio when I'm dealing with percents of a number. So I'm not necessarily multiplying by that percent. I have to add or subtract it from 1 based on what my number is doing, if it's increasing or decreasing.